If you're listening to this right now, there's a chance life feels heavier than usual. Not dramatic, not chaotic, just dense. Like everything takes more effort than it should. Like you're carrying a weight you can't fully explain. And here's the part most people get wrong. They assume that weight means something is wrong. But what if it doesn't? What if the pressure you're feeling is not punishment, but preparation? Most people believe that when God is about to bless them, life should feel lighter, easier, clearer. But history, both spiritual and human, shows the opposite. Before elevation, there is compression. Before expansion, there is resistance. Nothing significant grows without tension shaping it. Pressure doesn't arrive randomly. It arrives specifically often when you are closer to change than you realize. Think about it. Gold is refined under extreme heat. Muscles grow by being torn first. Even birth itself requires pressure before life emerges. Yet when pressure shows up in our own lives, we panic. We assume we're failing. We assume we're being punished. We assume we missed something. And that assumption is what keeps people stuck. Here's a truth most never hear. Pressure often increases right before purpose becomes unavoidable. When something big is forming, comfort is removed. Not to break you, but to detach you from who you can no longer afford to be. If everything in your life stayed easy, you would never change. You would never question. You would never grow into the version of yourself that the next chapter requires. And this is why pressure feels personal. It targets your habits, your patience, your faith, your identity. It doesn't attack randomly, it presses exactly where growth is needed. Some of you feel this right now. A quiet tension, a sense that something is coming, but you can't name it. You're not excited, you're unsettled, restless. And part of you wonders if that restlessness means you're doing something wrong. It doesn't. It often means you're being called forward. But here's where this becomes important. Because not all pressure is the same. And not every hard season means a breakthrough is near. The difference lies in the type of resistance you're experiencing. When God is about to give you something big, the pressure doesn't just exhaust you, it exposes you. It reveals what you've been avoiding. It confronts what no longer fits. It forces honesty. And if you pay attention, if you stay present instead of panicking, you'll begin to notice signs. Not loud miracles, not dramatic announcements, but subtle, unmistakable indicators that you're standing at the edge of a shift. In this video, we're going to walk through 7 signs that often appear right before a major turning point. Signs people usually misinterpret or miss entirely. And here's the reason you need to stay until the end. Some of these signs feel uncomfortable, even painful. Many people walk away right before they understand what's happening. But once you see them clearly, you won't fight the process anymore. You'll recognize it, and recognition changes everything. Let's begin with the first sign, because it's already happening for more people than they realize. One of the first signs that something significant is approaching is not excitement, it's resistance. A kind of resistance that feels unnecessary, excessive, and strangely targeted. You're not just tired. You're not just busy. You feel pressed from multiple directions at once, as if life itself is pushing back harder than before. This is where many people misread the moment. They assume the pressure means they're on the wrong path. They think if this were meant to happen, it wouldn't feel this difficult. But that belief is rooted in comfort, not truth. In reality, resistance often increases precisely because you are moving towards something that matters. Think about how resistance works in the physical world. You don't build strength by lifting what's easy. Growth happens when the weight challenges you, when it pushes against your limits. The same principle applies spiritually and emotionally. When you are about to step into a higher level of responsibility, clarity, or purpose, resistance rises to meet you. And it doesn't come from just one place. Suddenly, your focus is attacked. Small distractions feel heavier than usual. Doubt shows up louder than before. You may find yourself questioning decisions you were once confident about. Old fears resurface, fears you thought you had already outgrown. It's subtle but persistent, like static in the background of your mind. This kind of resistance is not meant to stop you, it's meant to test your awareness. Because when something big is forming, the enemy doesn't always try to destroy you. More often it tries to delay you, to exhaust you, to pull your attention in 10 directions so you never fully commit to the one that matters. You may notice that problems stack at once. One issue alone would be manageable, but when they arrive together they feel overwhelming. Finances tighten. Relationships become strained. Your energy drops. And in the middle of it all, you're left wondering why everything feels harder at the same time. That clustering is not accidental. It's pressure designed to make you question yourself before you reach the next threshold. Here's the key distinction. When resistance is random, it feels chaotic. But when resistance is purposeful, it feels concentrated. It targets your confidence, your patience, your sense of direction. It aims directly at what you're becoming, not where you've been. And if you're honest, this pressure feels different than past struggles. You've been through hard seasons before, but this one feels closer, more personal. Like something is about to change, but you're being challenged to prove you're ready for it. That's not coincidence. Pressure before elevation is a signal, not a sentence. It's not there to crush you, it's there to refine your response. To see whether you will retreat into fear or remain steady in uncertainty. Most people break here not because they aren't capable, but because they misinterpret what they're experiencing. They walk away thinking they failed, when in reality, they were being invited forward. If this kind of resistance has been showing up in your life lately, don't rush to escape it. Observe it. Learn from it. Because recognizing this pressure is the first step toward understanding what it's preparing you for. And once you see that clearly, the next sign becomes impossible to ignore because it shows up not as pressure, but as silence. Doors begin to close. After pressure comes something even more unsettling: silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that follows effort. You try, you apply, you reach out, you show up, and instead of progress, doors simply stop opening. No explanation, no clarity, just a quiet, frustrating no. Oh, this is where many people internalize the wrong story. They assume rejection means disqualification. They assume the closed door means they weren't good enough, fast enough, faithful enough. And slowly, confidence begins to erode, not because they failed, but because nothing makes sense anymore. But here's a truth that requires maturity to accept. Not every closed door is resistance. Some are protection. When God is about to move you forward, He often removes access to places that would delay you. And He rarely explains Himself in the moment. Because if you had the full picture, you might try to control the process instead of trusting it. Closed doors hurt because they challenge your expectations, especially when you believed something was meant for you, a job that felt perfect, a relationship you invested everything into, a plan you were certain would work out. When those doors close, it doesn't just disrupt your future, it questions your judgment. And that's the real test. Because this sign isn't about loss, it's about direction. Closed doors force you to confront whether you trust God's vision more than your own attachment. They ask whether you're willing to release what looks good in order to receive what's aligned. Here's something rarely acknowledged. Some doors close, not because they were bad, but because they were too small for where you're going. And if they stayed open, you might settle there, never realizing you stopped short of your calling. That's why these closures often feel abrupt, unfair, even unnecessary. But if you look closely, they usually remove patterns, environments, or relationships that no longer fit who you're becoming. And yes, it feels like loss at first. You replay conversations. You question decisions. You wonder if you could have done more. But over time, if you resist the urge to reopen what's been shut, you begin to notice something subtle. Your energy shifts. Your perspective widens. You're no longer confined to the same narrow path. Closed doors create space, and space is essential for something new to arrive. This is where many people waste energy trying to force access back into places that no longer respond, knocking louder, waiting longer, compromising themselves just to regain familiarity. But familiarity is not the same as destiny. When God closes a door, it's not to leave you stranded, it's to reposition you. And the moment you stop begging for access, clarity begins to replace confusion. But before clarity fully arrives, something else happens, something internal. A restlessness you can't shake. A sense that even if the door reopened, you wouldn't fit the same way anymore. That's the next sign. The discomfort that comes from outgrowing what once felt like home. After doors close, what follows isn't peace, it's discomfort. Not chaos, not panic, but a quiet, persistent restlessness that refuses to let you settle. Nothing around you has changed, yet everything feels different. You wake up in the same place, talk to the same people, follow the same routines, but deep down there's a tension you can't explain. The things that once excited you feel empty. The conversations feel shallow. The goals you chase so hard no longer move you. And this is where many people mislabel what's happening. They call it burnout. They call it boredom. They call it dissatisfaction. But what it really is displacement before elevation. This is what happens when your spirit outgrows your environment. God does this intentionally. When He's about to move you into something bigger, He won't let you remain comfortable where you no longer belong. Comfort would keep you still. Familiarity would keep you small. So instead, He introduces holy discomfort, not to punish you, but to mobilize you. This restlessness isn't anxiety. Anxiety drains you. This discomfort pushes you. It keeps tapping your attention in quiet moments, late at night, early in the morning. When everything slows down, it speaks the loudest. There is more. And notice this, God rarely tells you exactly what more looks like right away. That's the test. Can you trust the stirring without needing the full blueprint? Because if you had all the answers, you'd rely on certainty instead of faith. So instead of giving you clarity, God gives you movement. He shifts your appetite. He changes what satisfies you. He makes what once felt enough feel incomplete. This is also why trying to force yourself to stay feels exhausting. You can attempt to numb it, distractions, comfort, routine, but the restlessness returns stronger, clearer, more persistent, because you weren't designed to live in a season you've already outgrown. And here's the part people don't talk about. Staying where you've outgrown will drain you faster than stepping into the unknown ever will. Growth always feels unstable before it feels right. This is the moment where many people shrink themselves. They silence the inner voice. They convince themselves to be grateful and stop asking for more. But suppressing the calling doesn't eliminate it, it just turns it into frustration. Holy restlessness is not confusion. It's preparation. It's God loosening your attachment to the current version of your life so you're willing to release it when the next door opens. It's Him recalibrating your identity because the person you're becoming cannot carry the same desires, patterns, or priorities. And if you're feeling this right now, this inner misalignment, understand this: you are not broken. You are not ungrateful. You are not lost. You are in transition. But transition always comes with another cost. Because when you start to shift internally, Not everyone around you can or will shift with you. And that's where the next sign appears. After the restlessness sets in, something else begins to happen, quietly, subtly, but unmistakably. People start drifting out of your life. Not all at once. Not always dramatically. Sometimes it's slow. Conversations shorten. Invitations stop coming. Effort becomes one-sided. People who once felt close now feel distant, and you don't even know what changed. This is one of the most painful signs and one of the most misunderstood. Your first instinct is to blame yourself. Did I do something wrong? Did I change too much? Did I not do enough? And the truth is, yes, you changed, but that doesn't mean you did something wrong. When God elevates you, separation is not optional, it's necessary. Not everyone is assigned to your next level. Some people were meant to walk with you through a season, not the entire journey. And when that season ends, God begins to gently, or sometimes forcefully, remove them. This isn't punishment. It's protection. Because the version of you God is shaping cannot be sustained by the same relationships that were built for an earlier version of you. Some people were comfortable with you when you doubted yourself, when you stayed small, when you tolerated less than you deserved. But growth disrupts that comfort, and instead of growing with you, they withdraw. Others leave because they can't access the new version of you. They don't know how to relate to someone who now has boundaries, clarity, and direction. Your growth exposes their stagnation, and rather than confront it, they create distance. And that hurts, especially when it's people you loved, people you supported, people you never imagined losing. But here's what you must understand. God will never remove someone who is essential to your destiny. If they left, it's because they could not go where you're being taken. Elevation requires space, and space requires release. If God allowed everyone to stay, the weight of their expectations, limitations, and unresolved patterns would slow you down. Some people would unintentionally sabotage what they don't understand. Others would drain you simply by needing the old version of you to remain. So God intervenes, not with anger, not with chaos, but with separation. And notice this, you didn't have to force it. You didn't have to cut everyone off. It just happened. That's how you know it's divine. This is also why trying to chase people back feels wrong. Deep down, you know begging someone to stay would cost you your alignment. You sense that holding on would require shrinking again, and you're no longer built for that. Let them go without bitterness. Let them go without resentment. Let them go knowing that absence does not mean betrayal, it means completion. Some people are bridges. You cross them to reach the next place, but you don't build a house on them. And if you're grieving the loss of people right now, hear this clearly. God is not subtracting from your life, He's refining it. He's clearing room for connections that can meet you where you're going, not where you've been. Because what's coming next requires a lighter load. And when God is about to give you something big, He removes anything and anyone that cannot carry the weight of it. After the separation, after the silence, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. God starts confirming what He's about to do, not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. You begin to notice patterns you can't ignore. The same message keeps finding you through different voices, different places, different moments. A random conversation echoes something you've been praying about. A video appears at the exact time you needed clarity. A verse, a phrase, a sentence lands so precisely it feels like it was written for you. At first you brush it off, coincidence. But then it happens again and again and again. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. When God is about to give you something big, He knows doubt will try to creep in. He knows fear will whisper, "What if you're wrong?" So he surrounds you with reminders, not to convince you, but to steady you. What's interesting is that these confirmations don't always come with excitement. Often, they come with peace, a deep, quiet knowing that settles in your chest. Things may still look uncertain on the outside, the numbers don't add up, the timing doesn't make sense, other people might question you, but inside there's a calm you can't explain. That peace is not denial. That peace is discernment. God often speaks not through chaos, but through stillness. You might find yourself oddly calm about a decision that should logically terrify you, or you feel drawn towards something you can't fully explain yet, or you sense clarity without having all the details. That's God saying, "Trust me, I'm already ahead of you." This is where many people get stuck because they expect confirmation to look like certainty. But God doesn't always give certainty. He gives alignment. Enough light for the next step, not the whole staircase. And if you're honest, you already know. You've felt it. That moment when you stop asking everyone else for advice because no opinion feels clearer than what's already settled inside you. That moment when noise fades and something steady takes its place. But here's the danger. Overthinking can drown out confirmation. If you keep asking for signs while ignoring the ones already given, you delay what's meant to move forward. God confirms His word, but He also waits for obedience. Confirmation is not meant to replace faith. It's meant to strengthen it. So if you've been seeing the same message repeatedly, if clarity keeps returning no matter how much you try to talk yourself out of it, if peace keeps showing up where fear should be, pay attention. Because when God is about to give you something big, He makes sure you're not walking blind. He just asks you to walk trusting. And the quiet confidence you feel right now, that's not imagination. That's preparation. This is where it gets hardest. Because right when confirmations increase, support often disappears. This is the phase where faith stops being theoretical and becomes personal. Nothing seems to work the way it used to. Prayers feel unanswered. Effort feels unrewarded. Progress feels invisible. You do everything right, yet doors stay closed. You stay patient, yet delays stretch longer than expected. You stay faithful, yet circumstances don't improve. And that's when the real test begins. Not a test of effort, not a test of discipline, a test of trust. God tests faith not by giving you more signs, but by removing safety nets. This is the season where logic fails you. Your backup plans collapse, your confidence wavers, the things you once relied on no longer hold weight, and suddenly you're left with one question. Do you still believe, even now? This is the point where many people quit not because they lack faith, but because they misunderstand this stage. They assume struggle means delay. They assume difficulty means denial. But in reality, this is often the final refining before release. Because the blessing you're asking for isn't small, and God will not give you something that breaks you instead of builds you. So He tests your foundation. He allows moments where you can't control the outcome, moments where you must surrender instead of striving, moments where trust is the only option left. And yes, this phase feels lonely. You may feel misunderstood, unsupported, spiritually exhausted, emotionally stretched thin. You may even question whether you heard God correctly in the first place. That questioning doesn't mean your faith is weak. It means it's being strengthened. Gold isn't tested in comfort. It's tested in fire. This season is not about proving your worth to God. He already knows who you are. It's about proving to yourself that your faith isn't dependent on outcomes. Can you trust God without timelines? Without guarantees? Without applause? Because once your faith becomes unshakable, once it no longer depends on circumstances, you become capable of carrying what's coming next. God is not withholding the blessing. He's ensuring you're ready to receive it without losing yourself. So if you feel like everything has stripped away, if you feel like faith is all you have left, you're closer than you think. Because when faith is all you have, it becomes all you need. And that kind of faith, it moves mountains. This is where the shift becomes visible. Not loud, not dramatic, but unmistakable. After the pressure, after the closed doors, after the loneliness, after the testing of your faith, something begins to move. And it rarely looks the way you imagined. Opportunities start appearing, but not the ones you chased, not the ones you planned, not the ones you thought you needed. They arrive quietly, unexpectedly, almost casually. A conversation that wasn't supposed to matter, a message you didn't expect to receive, a chance encounter that stays on your mind longer than it should. And suddenly, something clicks. This feels different. That's because this isn't hustle-driven opportunity. This is alignment. When God is about to give you something big, He doesn't ask you to force it, He positions it. You stop running after doors, and doors begin opening toward you. What's interesting is that these opportunities often feel uncomfortable at first. They stretch you. They require courage. They ask for trust before clarity. Because divine alignment doesn't come wrapped in certainty. It comes wrapped in invitation. You may feel unqualified, unready, uncertain, but deep down there's peace. Not excitement, not adrenaline. Peace. And peace is how God confirms direction when logic can't. These opportunities often pull you away from familiarity, away from old routines, away from versions of yourself that felt safe but limited. And that's intentional, because what's coming next cannot be built on who you used to be. This is why these moments feel disruptive. They interrupt your comfort. They challenge your identity. They force you to choose growth over security. And many people miss this sign not because it isn't clear, but because it doesn't arrive the way they expected. They were waiting for everything to make sense. But faith doesn't work like that. Faith moves before understanding catches up. God presents the door and waits, not to see if you're perfect, not to see if you're fearless, but to see if you trust Him enough to walk through it. This is why alignment feels lighter, even when it's challenging. You're no longer pushing against resistance. You're flowing with purpose. Things begin to line up, not instantly, but steadily. And once you step into this alignment, you'll realize something powerful. All the delays were protection. All the closed doors were guidance. All the pressure was preparation. Nothing was wasted. So if opportunities are appearing out of nowhere, if paths you never considered are calling your attention, if doors are opening without force, pay attention. This isn't coincidence. This is confirmation. And what you do next matters. Because alignment is the invitation. Faith is the response. And destiny follows those who move before everything feels safe. Here's the part most people don't talk about. Because it's not exciting. It's not visible. And it doesn't look like progress from the outside. But this is where everything is decided. Before God changes your circumstances, He changes you. Not to punish you, not to delay you, but to protect what He's about to place in your hands This is the preparation phase, and it's often mistaken for stagnation. Nothing seems to be happening. The breakthrough hasn't arrived yet. The promise feels distant, but internally, everything is shifting. Your patience is being refined. Your ego is being softened. Your reactions are being slowed. You start responding instead of reacting, listening instead of proving, waiting instead of forcing. And that's not accidental, because blessings don't just require opportunity, they require capacity. If God gave you everything you asked for before this phase, it might have crushed you, or corrupted you, or pulled you away from who you're meant to become. So He prepares you quietly, through delay, through discipline, through moments where no one is applauding. You're learning restraint, you're learning discernment, you're learning how to carry weight without needing validation. This is where character is formed, not when everything is going right, but when you choose integrity while nothing seems to be happening. And yes, this phase can feel lonely, because preparation often removes distractions, including people who can't go where you're going. You start seeing life differently. You stop craving noise. You stop needing constant reassurance. You begin trusting God in silence. And that's the sign of maturity. Because what's coming next won't just test your ability, it will test your stability. This phase is where God teaches you how to stay grounded when success comes, how to stay humble when recognition arrives, how to stay calm when responsibility increases. So, if you feel like life has slowed down, if you feel like you're being asked to wait, grow, and refine, if you feel stretched internally but unchanged externally, you are not being delayed. You are being prepared, and preparation is proof that something valuable is on the way. Because God never prepares someone for nothing. He prepares them for everything. Take a breath here, because this is the truth you need to hear, not emotionally, but deeply. You are not late. You are not lost. And you have not been forgotten. Even if it feels like everyone else is moving ahead. Even if the timeline you imagined has already passed. Even if silence has replaced the clarity you once had. None of that means God has stepped away. Some seasons feel quiet not because nothing is happening, but because something sacred is unfolding beneath the surface. Growth often happens underground. Roots form in darkness. Strength develops where no one is watching. And just because you can't see progress doesn't mean you're not aligned. There are moments when God removes urgency from your life on purpose, not to slow you down but to steady you, because what's coming next requires peace, not panic, trust, not force, presence, not pressure. You were never meant to rush into your calling, exhausted and broken. You were meant to arrive grounded. This is why things didn't happen sooner. This is why certain doors closed. This is why the path narrowed. Not because you weren't ready, but because you were being protected until the timing was right. And timing matters. A blessing too early becomes a burden. A responsibility before maturity becomes regret. God's delays are not denials. They are alignments. So if you're listening to this and wondering whether you missed your moment, you didn't. If you're questioning whether you took a wrong turn, you haven't. If you're afraid that the silence means abandonment, it doesn't. Sometimes silence is God saying, stay close. I'm about to move. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You don't need to rush. Your job right now is simple. Stay faithful. Stay present. Stay open. Because when God is about to give you something big, He doesn't announce it with noise. He prepares you with peace. And when it arrives, you'll realize this moment, right now, wasn't the waiting room. It was the final shaping. You are exactly where you need to be. And what's coming will make sense of everything that came before.